Well, here they are, all 5 contestants in our contest. At the beginning we were confused about all the claims of the blender manufacturers, so we wanted to compare them side by side with different ingredients. We have 5 blenders: the residential vita-mix 5000, the vita-prep 3, the Waring, the Blendtec HPA, and the Blendtec 20 amp blender. We tested all the major players in the super blender market and now know without a shadow of a doubt that the 20 amp Blendtec is the best blender in every category. Some of the others are good entry-level blenders for those who are in transition and moving towards a symbiotic lifestyle. As optimum health becomes your goal, you will undoubtedly insist on owning a 20 amp Blendtec blender. It truly is in a class of its own. The micronized particles from the 20 amp Blendtec are much more easily absorbed and utilized by your body. It's like chewing an apple for 12 hours instead of 2 minutes. The 20 amper turns a regular smoothie into a micronized superfood. It turns a roughie into a smoothie. Smoothie bars buy these for durability and a guarantee. We buy them for power and speed. The Vitamix and Waring are good blenders for making smoothies if that is your goal. However, the goal of a symbiotic whole raw foodist is optimal health, which is only attainable by consuming optimal fuel and nutrients. The 20 amper micronizes the food at a level unattainable by any other blender. The other 4 blenders are the second generation 3 or 3 plus horsepower blenders and are powerhouses of blending power compared to your mother's blender. But the Blendtec is a 3rd generation blender. Everything from the motor to the container to the blade to the computer chip made this blender the very best in our comparison. With the pre-programmed cycles, you can fine-tune your blender performance to optimize whatever you are blending, whether it be fruit or vegetables or seeds or nuts. Here are some factors to consider in blending. Time. The longer you blend a smoothie, the more oxygen you mix with the ingredients, which oxidizes and kills the nutrients. So, the shorter the blending time, the better. The more powerful and efficient the blender is, the less time it takes to blend. In the 20 amp Blendtec, we can break up the food particles to the micron level in the shortest possible time. Lesser blenders will take at least twice the amount of time and still not attain the level of cell breakdown that we get from the 20 amp blender. Oxidation is a killer of nutrients, so it is better to start out slow to break up the food and then move on to the high speed for the most cellular breaking power. The Blendtec blenders have about 30 pre-programmed cycles to optimize the blending. Some of them start out slow and then speed up when the food is partially broken up. I use the XL smoothie button for many smoothies. It's a 40-second cycle. The first 15 seconds churns the food up at a slow speed, then it kicks into high speed for 25 seconds and then shuts off. It's one-touch blending. It takes the guesswork out of timing. If I want to blend a little longer, I just hit the pulse button. Another important issue is temperature. The process of blending creates friction, which causes the temperature of the smoothies to rise. The higher the starting temperature of your food, the higher the finishing temperature is. You don't want your smoothie to overheat and cook your nutrients. The reason you are listening to this is probably because you are trying to maximize the number of phytochemicals that you ingest. So it is better to have your smoothie ingredients cold when you start, rather than at room temperature, because you don't want your smoothie to get too warm. It is very important to understand the dynamics of blending to get the most nutrients from the smoothie. Now, the motor. What does the rated horsepower mean? The vita-prep 3 claimed to be 3 horsepower, but was rated at 12.5 amps and 1500 watts. The Waring MX1050 claimed to be 3.5 horsepower, but was rated at 13 amps and 1560 watts. 1 horsepower is equal to 746 watts, so a 3 horsepower motor should be 2238 watts, but these 2 blenders were 1500 and 1560 respectively. It didn't make sense to me that they could be rated at 3 horsepower. I tried to get a valid explanation, but it was all double talk. 1500 watts is equal to only 2 horsepower, not 3. It's all marketing numbers to impress potential customers. On the other hand, the 20 amp Blendtec is rated at 2400 watts, which equals a true 3.2 horsepower that peaks at over 4 horsepower. As evidence in our tests, every blender was easily overloaded except the 20 amper. We used an ammeter to test the electrical input, which is the amount of power that the motor required to blend the ingredients. A 13 amp motor is designed to run at less than 13 amps. If you run it drawing more amperage than it was designed for, you will shorten the life of the motor and burn it out prematurely. Just like if you redline your car all the time, it won't last long. If you choose an entry-level blender, be aware of how easy it is to overload them with the thicker smoothies. The 20-amp motor has reserve power for the real tough jobs like nut butters and dough kneading. I couldn't overload the motor no matter how hard I tried. I had a nut butter mix that was so thick that the blade was moving very slowly and the container was actually shuddering, and it was only drawing 18.5 amps. The motor will last forever. It was designed for commercial use and to be run all day at a smoothie bar. It's guaranteed for 3 years or 20,000 cycles, which is unheard of for a commercial blender. The BlendTech never went over its rated amperage, and the normal fruit smoothies and green smoothies it drew about 15 amps, which by the way would not overload a 15 amp circuit in your kitchen. Another bonus with a powerful motor is that no matter what you put in the blender, the blade RPM will not be slowed down, which brings me to the issue of blades and blade speed and blade design. What is better, a single blade or a double cross blade? Of these 5 blenders, only the 2 BlendTechs have a single blade. One of the advantages of the single blade is that it is so much easier to clean. It doesn't have the sharp, pointy tips that the vita-mix has. Also, a single blade does not create as much resistance, so under load, the RPMs are not slowed down. It is able to maintain the high RPMs. For a given RPM, the longer the blade, the faster the speed at the tip. So the tip of a 4-inch blade travels twice the distance as the tip of a 2-inch blade in the same amount of time. In one revolution of the shaft, the tip of a 4-inch blade will travel 8.68 inches. In one revolution of the shaft, the tip of a 2-inch blade will travel 4.34 inches, which is half the distance. This means that the 4-inch tip will travel at twice the speed of the 2-inch tip, which would do more damage or have more particle breaking power. Obviously, the faster tip. The 4-inch BlendTech blade has been clocked at 366 miles an hour, so the 2-inch blade would only be traveling at 183 miles an hour. Quite a significant difference. Another point which is very significant is that most blender blades come to a point at the tip, so the fastest part of the blade is a tiny little point. At the ends of the BlendTech 20-amp 4-inch blade is a huge half-inch upright tip. Since the tip is the fastest part of the blade, the BlendTech is exponentially more effective at breaking up the food, which is the goal of a symbiotic smoothie drinker. A 3 1/4 inch blade of the small BlendTech also has 2 half-inch upright tips. I haven't said much about the smaller BlendTech. It has a 12.5 amp 1500 watt motor, the same as the vita-Prep 3, but coupled with a superior container with a 3 1/4 inch blade with the 2 half-inch upright tips, it's far superior. Look at the videos. It's the best entry-level blender in the group. One final point I would like to note is that the design of the 96-ounce BlendTech container. It seems what separates a so blender from a superior blender is all about the design, and the new design of this container is phenomenal. It's a 5-sided square that is amazing to watch. The roundish containers create a whirlpool that is very gentle and controlled, while this 5-sided square sucks the smoothie down the center and throws it up the sides. It's more like an earthquake instead of a tornado. Hopefully our videos will help you make your own decision about which blender is the best for you and your purposes. I think you can tell which one we recommend. Call us if you have any questions about what you have seen in these videos. And have a smooth day, or a smoothie day.